Hello, everyone. I would like to do a brief review of the interview process with the template. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And here is the template and where we are at this point. We've already completed the introduction section, and now we're going to interview our business owner. So the first part is there any other information that we'd like to add to the introduction? So we would know if we want to ask any additional questions regarding the formation of the business. And then what we would like to do is just go right down the template. But what I want to mention though in advance is that I strongly suggest that you record this template, record the interview, excuse me. So what you would want to do is either audio or video record. And then after you've done with the interview process, then go back and populate the template. Because if you're sitting here typing in the information as you're asking the questions, it becomes very laborious and it becomes a long process. And we want to be mindful of the business owner's time. I expect when you go through the questions here, it should take 30 to 45 minutes. The business owner likes to talk a lot, but I would think that that's a good frame of reference there. There have been some interviews that go to an hour for business owners that really like to convey a lot of information. So when we start off, we can ask the business owner here, really going down the list. One person has the list available to them and asking the questions, having it recorded, and then going back and reviewing it. So here, what is your long-term strategy? That is a question you can ask for the first section here. And so some business owners don't have a long-term strategy. They don't have any strategy. And so we would document that information. We're really just asking the questions, and then we're going to be documenting the information from the business owner's perspective. So here, they may have one. They may be a strategy on their website or elsewhere that we can put the information in, or the business owner will let us know. And so now we ask them, well, what short-term tactics do you have that you use to meet that long-term goal? And then they may mention something, and of course, that's what we're putting in there. So short-term being less than 1 year. What are the steps that they have along the way to meet that long-term goal? And then we will ask them about other types of strategies. Do you have a communication strategy? And they may ask you, well, what do you mean by that? And then we can go in and say, well, what type of advertising strategy do you use that may be different from your competitors? Do you have any type of promotional materials that you're using? Do you use public relations? So we want to gather that data from the business owner as well. And then do we have an implementation strategy? Oh, well, the business owner may say, well, what does that mean? What are you referring to there? And then we can let them know is, well, what do you use to retain customers? Do you have a warranty? Are there any other ways that a strategy that you use to implement those customers? And then a pricing strategy. Do you have a pricing strategy? Some customers may or the business owners may say, well, I don't focus on pricing so much. What I focus on more is the value to the customer or providing some other type of benefit to the customer. And that's fine. But we want to get an idea, do they price similarly? Do they price less than the competitors? What is their pricing strategy? And then we can ask the following questions regarding the statements. Do you have a mission statement? Most companies will have a mission statement, but not all. But few have a vision and very few have a value statement. And that's fine. If they don't have it, then we would put the information in here that they don't have it. But we're gathering the information at this point. And then we go into the business model canvas. Here, we're really just going through this template, asking questions as it relates to each section to help us to populate this template. So here we can ask the business owner, do you have a value proposition statement? And they may say, well, I do have some value that I provide to my customers, and here it is, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's fine. So we know what the value is that they're providing their customer. What is your customer segment? What specific customer segment do you work with? They may have more than one. Well, then if you have two or three customer segments, then you may need to rephrase this and have maybe two or three paragraphs depending on each customer segment. But we're gathering the information here, and we want to know, either the product name or the product name or the business company, and describing the value for the customer, and then the customer themselves. And then we want to know, is there some type of gain creator or a pain reliever that you provide to gain this value for your customer. So we want to just kind of like pick apart each section, ask questions. So we've exhausted the question and we've gathered enough information from the business owner that we can write this report. We may need to elaborate, we may not, that's optional. And then here for the revenue streams. Now, oftentimes the business owner may not want to go into revenue, may not want to go into the cost structure, but we're looking for ways of finding out, is their revenue model different from competitors out there? So that's what we're seeking here. The business model canvas is all about what are the different business models available within the structure, within these building blocks. So we want to just gather that information. Sometimes they'll tell you, areas of revenue, and not necessarily dollar amounts, just how the revenue is obtained. So that is very useful information for this section. The customer segments, again, depending on how many there are, they could be an e-commerce company that's working with end users as well as wholesalers. So again, 2 different paragraphs for each of those there. And then, so we want to explore each section as we're interviewing the business owner. And then the channels. So how do we deliver that, value to that customer? And so we're getting that information from the business owner and then going down to your customer relationships. So here, this is really basically a 3-part question. So we're asking them, well, how do you acquire customers? And this also ties in with the Ashmore section there of the customer factory. So we can actually use this as useful for both sections. So how do you acquire the customers? How do you retain those customers? And how do you grow customers? So here, an example for this might be something like an e-commerce company. Well, how do you acquire customers? Well, I use influencers, and I wind up paying them a percentage of the sales they bring to me. Okay, so that's how I acquire those customers. Or I sell retail through Amazon. All right, so that might be another way how they retain customers. So we want to just gather the information. Maybe they do both, and that's fine too. But then how do we retain those customers? Well, I send them like a discount coupon once they purchase something for me for another purchase, or they may have some other ideas or other ways of retaining those customers and maintaining those customers. Perhaps they have a subscription model or something else that they're doing. And how do we grow those customers? So we're growing those by maybe selling them some additional product or service that ties in with what they've already purchased from us, or another way or they may have another way. But we're asking them basically a 3-part question here to gather enough information so we know how they relate to their customers. And then the key partners. So who are your key partners? So this doesn't necessarily mean someone that owns a share of the company or a percentage of the company. It can be suppliers. It's people that work with the company. Like, for instance, the e-commerce company, the influencer is a key partner. Without that influencer, then they wouldn't be getting as many customers coming to them or clients. So that is an important key partner. Suppliers are key partners. There are others that provide the business owner with different information. So we want to keep it along those lines and get that information from and what we're looking for here is, are they doing something different than other competitors are doing? And then our key activities, what does the business owner do? What do the employees of the business do to meet that value to the customer segment. So we're looking for that information as well. It's basically looking for operational perspective there. So you're looking at what do you do? What are the key activities in your operation that you do on a regular basis? And then are the resources that are needed. So let's say for that e-commerce company that's selling a product, perhaps they are ordering supplies from different suppliers. They're packaging them up differently or putting them together differently. So they have to order the different supplies. They have to order packaging for maybe a wrapper, or and then it needs to be put in a box, and then it needs to be put in a larger box to be shipped. So there are many different resources that are needed. Now, for let's say a service company, then the resources may be different. Maybe it's a software program that's a resource that's needed, or there are paper that's needed, or other types of resources that are needed, people resources, and so forth. Then our cost structure, again, we're looking at to see, is there a cost model here that's different from other competitors? And then we're not necessarily looking for the actual dollar cost. We're looking more for a breakdown of what are the costs. And if we are not able to gather that information from the business owner, then what is the industry norm? That's perfectly acceptable here. Now, certainly, once we've completed this for the assignment, we want to go to the business model canvas at the end of this document and populate that table in very, very brief statement form. And then we go down to the SWOT analysis for the interview. So we're asking them, well, what are the strengths of the business? And oftentimes business owners like to spend a lot of time on this, and that's great. So we're gathering that information, understanding their strengths. Sometimes business owners don't like to give us information on the weaknesses of the company, but we want to try to let them know that weaknesses are all businesses have weaknesses, and perhaps a weakness could be that the company has only been in business for a year and a half, and many competitors have been in business for 10 or 20 years. So it is a bit of a weakness because they haven't had the experience, but they have lots of strengths, to combat that, and that's fine. We want to understand their weaknesses. Perhaps it's location, perhaps it's other areas. And then we have opportunities. Well, perhaps if they move somewhere else, that might be an opportunity for them. Perhaps they could do many different things. So we're getting the business owner's perspective of what are opportunities available to them that they may want to investigate. And then threats. Here, sometimes they get stuck on this a little bit, but a threat could be in Southwest Florida, if it's a brick and mortar company, certainly the weather, hurricanes, excessive heat where people don't want to go out very often for prolonged periods of time can be a threat to the business. If it happens over a long period of time, that can hurt. Even the locality of the business, as far as here in Southwest Florida, we have a very transient business model that may affect this business if they're brick and mortar, because we have snowbirds and they're here mainly in the wintertime, and the business, threat of prolonged summer may hurt the business as well. Now, another threat could be, let's say, increased taxes or political or regulatory situations that could occur. So increased taxes could be a threat to the business, whereas decreased taxes could be an opportunity for the business to spend that money on maybe more equipment or hire more employees to grow the business, whereas increased taxes could hurt the business by restraining and not being able to purchase more equipment and hire new employees. So we want to think about, really want to investigate and not just leave the threats as a single line or just a one or two line item. We want to really dig into the threats and think about what could really hurt the business, because those are things the business owner will want to, in the future, think about and prepare for. And so to mediate that if it should occur. And so we're not asking them a question on this. We're just compiling this list after the fact, after we've written it. And then we go down to the customer factory manifesto. I've already asked them how they acquire their customers, so that's the acquisition portion of it. We can kind of go over this blueprint with them so they get an idea. Well, what we're looking for is, how are you acquiring those customers? Basically, the customer factory is the value proposition, really, because that's how they're acquiring those customers. And then the activation process, what are they doing to activate, to turn those customers into sales and revenue? And how is that revenue obtained? And then we're looking at retaining those customers and referrals. So, do they have a referral process in place? What are they doing? So we're just asking these specific questions to gather the information to populate this section. We go down to the very last, excuse me, sections here, the customer acquisition cost and the customer lifetime value. This information is in the module, but you do not have to build upon or really go into this. If the business owner is reluctant to give you financial data, then that's perfectly fine. We just leave this section intact. You can see the very last section here is that you are unable to get the information. Here, you are unable to get the information, and that's perfectly fine. Let the business owner run their own information. If they are willing to give you the information and you want to go ahead and run the information yourself, then go right ahead and do that. But it is not required. And that is all. At this point now, when we go down to the revenue streams and adjacent market, here's where we start as the team to really dissect the information that the business owner has provided to us. We consider our case study analysis that we've done with the 3 case studies, and then we think about how it can reflect with this business owner. But we're not working on that now. We stop with the interview at this point. We've gathered that data, and then we're going to populate it for the assignment. Please let me know if you have any questions at all, any concerns. If you would like to meet with me, have a Zoom meeting with your team or just 1 or 2 people on the team, that's perfectly fine. If you feel you're stuck on something, very happy to help. Thank you so much.